Hello, I'm Ryan Messenger, and welcome to my non-sponsored gear demo of the Aurora DSP Unified Preamp Goblin and Fenrir IR Loader. Yes. Now I'm also using the Spectre Digital 2023 SMG V30 IR. Fenrir allows you to use two IRs and blend them. Now that whole signal chain is free, which is insane. We'll get to the actual tones, but first I want to talk about the control tone, and that is my Axe-Fx Ultra, and that's just basically because that's a tone that I'm familiar with. I'm using the Radial Big Shot right here, and that's an ABY pedal, so my guitar is going into that. That's then being split, so I have one going to the interface, so that's the VSTs that we're demoing today. The other one is going to the Axe-Fx, so when I play, I can switch between either one or use both, which is really cool. You can take different amps, blend them together. I featured it in a ton of other videos, so I'm not going to get into it much more than that. But very cool pedal. Anyway, so here we are. This is the Axe-Fx Ultra. Now I have a screen grab going, so I'm going to show Axe Edit. Let me pull that up. Now what we have here is a Rat distortion going into a rectifier, going into a 4x12 V30 with a SM57, and then I have a high and low pass, and then a gate. Alright, so there's your amp. Now that's the Axe-Fx side of things. I do have some other stuff going on over here, so let's check that out next. Of course, you gotta have a tuner. Now, I have another gate on the Axe-Fx. The reason why I did that was because I was actually getting a bunch of noise when I was playing louder with the cabinet. So that was kind of a quick fix. Don't actually really need it. But what I do use is I use the Spectre Digital sidechain gate. The idea behind that, and this is cool that I have the screen grab, and Glenn has a video on this too, and I'm gonna link all of these guys in the description of this video. Okay, so if you go into the routing of the Axe-Fx Ultra bus, the bus track, so I set that to 4 channels, right? And then I have on the DI track, which is a DI box, you turn off the parent send. That turns off if you have the track armed and you go to play, you turn off parent send, it won't be sending to your master send, so you won't hear it, but it'll still be recording it. Now, I send that to the Axe-Fx Ultra bus, and that's then being sent to this sidechain gate. Okay, there's videos on this. I'm not going to get into it much more than that, but that's basically how you set it up. You just want to make this, it's when you load it up, and this is if you're using Reaper. Also, I have a Pultec EQ, and that's doing the, as far as I know, the Andy Sneap thing where you boost and attenuate 30 hertz, and that just beefs up your guitar tone. Again, Glenn has a video on this too. That's actually where I learned it. Yeah, that's as far as I'll go with that riff. So let me turn that off real quick and you can hear it. Okay, instant Chug City. Now, after that, I have dynamic EQ, and that's basically just to tame Chug City just a little bit. Last but not least, I have a regular EQ, and that's just a high and low pass filter. For the high pass, it's currently at 100 hertz. This really depends on the mix itself. I usually go up to like 120 hertz just because I like having more bass guitar in there. That's just one of the things where you just have to use your ears. But generally between like 90 and 120, that's probably where you want to be. Now, this is another trick that I learned, and I learned this from Christian Cole, and shout out to him too. I've been watching his channel and I've been learning a lot. One thing I learned from him, when you low pass your metal guitars, you actually want to cut in a lot. I used to leave all the way up to 11K. I'd start my low pass way up by like 10K, 11K. So, I'd come in, then I saw some videos where guys were, boosting 8K. So I tried doing stuff like that with high gain guitars. That ends up just being a lot of fizz. So I found cutting that out actually makes mixing a lot easier because the guitar becomes more in your face. You can really start to hear, and it's not being masked by that high end. So as you can see here, like I'm at like 5100 right there. If I turn that off, there's all that fizz. But my point being that it gives space for the cymbals, it gives space for the vocals, it does some cool stuff. So I'm getting sidetracked. So you see that there. And there's your Axe-Fx Ultratone. That explains that whole tone. Now you know what's up with that. Okay, so that's the whole Axe-Fx Ultratone. Now let's switch over to the Aurora DSP setup. And quick run through here. I'm using the sidechain gate, except this time I'm not sidechaining. I'm just going right in. Have that first. It's seeing the DI going into the audio interface. Next, I have the RE-EQ doing the same thing. As I was doing with the Axe-Fx, I'm just pulling out just a little bit of the very top end of the chugs just to keep them balanced. That's going then into the unified preamp. So off. It's doing exactly what an overdrive should. Now the reason why I brought those down is because I don't want a ton of fizz and I don't want a ton of mud in there. So, but let's just check this out real quick. Well, of course, we got to dial them all out, so. And the gate's doing its job as well. So if I was to turn that gate off, all the noise comes back. So it's doing its job. I'll bring this back down. Cool. Okay, now we're going into the Goblin here. And this has its own IR and a blend. So I can blend between two different IRs. Very cool plugin. This was also free, and it amazes me how good this thing sounds, especially considering it's free. That's like, what? So these are, and I only played with this for about 2 minutes before I started this video. This is the first time I've ever used the software. Really all I try to do is go back and forth between the Axe-Fx and this software and get something ballpark. I'm not trying to make them exactly the same. I'm just trying to make both of them sick. So if one thing, as I start working on one tone, I go back, something might jump out on the other tone, vice versa. So but ultimately I'm going for a balanced metal tone. I would say go download the software and check it out, right? Check out these settings too. This is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. Also, you don't need the IR loader technically. So if I turn that off real quick, I'll just demo this. It's definitely going to get louder. So I'll bring this down. Yeah, see, if I was using this IR, I would go back up here and I would tweak this a little bit. But I'm using Fenrir, and what I am doing here is I have the Spectre Digital V30 and the 440, and I'm blending them, and that is a very cool thing about this plugin. And we lost our volume. Let me fix that real quick. So this is an IR loader. And stick around for part 2, because part 2 I have a bunch of free IRs that I got from a bunch of different YouTubers, a bunch of different dudes in the metal scene, and I'm gonna just start demoing them and see which ones work for me. I will also be using the Goblin for that. So this also has a volume here, which is definitely handy. And then this is a blend right here. With IRs, one little bit of advice: if you're blending multiple IRs, using a dark and a bright sounding IR and then blending the two together will get you really good results. So one other thing I wanted to mention, again with this guitar sim, I'm doing this like a similar thing with an EQ, low and high pass. That just makes it a lot easier to sit in a mix. You don't necessarily need that if you're just jamming, so I'll turn it off and you can hear it. But you see, as soon as I turn it on, a lot of that fizz went away. And if you're worried about it getting a little bit lower in volume, you can always just bring it up here and just gain match it that way. Okay, and this video wouldn't be complete if I didn't click both on the Radio Big Shot and see what happens when I blend both tones. Here we go. Okay, so to wrap up this video, I'm very impressed by this software. The fact that it's free is even cooler. Links in the description for all this stuff. Try out my settings. Check out part 2. I have a bunch of IRs, some from Ola, some from Bogren Digital, some from Christian Cole, and a couple more from Glenn over at Spectre Digital. Shout outs to all those guys. I'm going to link their channels. They've helped me a lot. I like, go over there, subscribe to them for me if you enjoyed this video. That's my way of saying thanks to them. And also for hooking us up with all this cool stuff. Thank you, Aurora DSP. It's amazing how far these guitar tones are going. I wanted this Axe-Fx for the longest time, and it's still great. It still sounds amazing. But when that's a free tone, It's pretty sweet. I mean, like, it's definitely like usable in a mix. So grab that, check it out. I might use it in a future Swola actually, just to demo it with some drums. Okay, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let me know if there's other awesome software that I should be demoing. And hang out for part 2 where I go over a bunch of really cool IRs using this tone. Awesome. See you later.